So now we holding hand. Let's move forward with our plan to help elected our president. That we
It's nice to see young people coming. Yeah.
Okay. So it looks like we are back live. I do apologize that we are having some technical difficulties connecting and staying live. We are having a storm here in Ohio. Please be patient with us. We're going to have to start everything over by having our team reintroduce themselves one more time, since this is a whole new segment. Let's go ahead and start with Mr. Linwood again. Mr. Linwood, will you please introduce yourself and where you're from and what you do?
Yes, my name is Linwood Hoeun. I'm from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I'm a community engagement director for Americans for Prosperity. Our mission is to secure everybody's freedom and make sure that everybody is able to be effective in their communities. I was a state committeeman for 2 terms in 13th Congressional District in Philadelphia. I'm in Pennsylvania, and a ward leader and RCO. I've been active in the community for over 30 years. I'm a conservative Republican, and I do everything I possibly can to help the community. I work with the officials in the White House, and just lobbying is one of my major events I'm doing now. But what we believe in is that mutual benefits for all Americans. And everybody should have the opportunity to advance and be free without any of the restrictions and the, turmoil that they put over top of everybody to make it that hard for you to get somewhere. So we advance groups, and we help groups advance. We do the legislative portion. We do the training portions also, if necessary. So we provide a bucket full of services. I mean, we have a lot of services to help the community, and we use them to help our community. Every dime we use to help the community. So I'm doing things not just in Philadelphia, but also my region is the southeastern part of Pennsylvania, which covers Montgomery County all the way out to maybe Wilkesboro and King of Prussia. So I have a lot of ground to cover, and I bring a lot of people together, and for the cause of making our government respect us as free citizens in the society.
Thank you, sir. And we'll move on to Mr. Kim K. Please introduce yourself and what you do for your community and your location.
Well, thank you. Once again, I really appreciate it for the opportunity here to speak for this conference call in the situation that we're looking at here. Currently, I am the chair for the Lowell Republican City Committee in Lowell, Massachusetts, one of the second largest Cambodian community in the nation in the United States here. And also I was a former state representative, a former candidate for the state representative for the district as well. I've been involved in the community heavily since my inception back in the state of Massachusetts about 6 years ago. It has been fun. It is always, and it's also always an honor to receive such a love and support by so many when I was running as a Republican in a heavily Democratic district here. So once again, thank you. Sue, you're
I'm
muted.
so sorry. I had myself on mute. We'll go ahead and move on to Mr. Visnarian. Please introduce yourself and where you're from, what you do for your community.
All right, I'll keep it a little bit shorter this time. I'm from Danbury, Connecticut. I came to this country in 1983, and I've been working in government for the past, since I want to say about 10 years now, the first 5, 6 being with the state government. Before that, I was in the military and then college. Now I work for Connecticut's best mayor and probably one of the best Republican men in the whole country, for Mark Bowen, Mayor Mark Bowen down here in Danbury, and I specialize in community and public health. I've been a human and political rights activist, executive vice president of the, executive president of the United Khmer Foundation, an organization we start out here in Connecticut to preserve the Khmer culture and music and arts. And then shortly after that, I was also the vice president of Cambodia America Alliance, where we pushed for a lot of reforms in American policies towards Cambodia, towards Southeast Asia as a whole. We were able to get quite a few things done in there for the last 5 years. We're active working against the Hoeun regime. I'm happy to be a part of this. I'm happy to be a part of this roundtable discussion with a lot of the folks here. I am a Republican conservative. I am also on the Republican Town Committee. And I've been pretty active in politics, going back as far as 7-8 years.
Thank you, sir. And we'll move on to Mr. Sapal. Please introduce yourself, where you're from, and what you do for the community.
Yeah, thank you, Sue. My name is Paul Neff. I'm a first wave of a Cambodian refugee. Came to Minnesota in 1975. Yeah, also it's the state that, you get a hot spot that former officer that put the knees on to George Floyd. That created a lot of chaos in the whole United States. Yeah, also, we have a 10,000 Cambodian community here, live here in Minnesota. Also, we have the biggest Cambodian Tampon in the United States. Thank you.
And then we'll move on to Mr. Tapana. Please introduce yourself, where you're from, and what you do for your community.
Yes, hi, Juliet Suo. Yeah, my name is Tapana. I was born in Cambodia and came here as a refugee in 1975. When I escaped, took me 4 months to walk out of the communist killing machine. Yes, I've been an activist in this community, my community that I love very much in Long Beach, California here, for 45 years. And, I produce a lot of organizations like CACC, like New Year Parade, and I involved in everything that going through this community. And I've been a Republican for a long, long time. I love to be Republican. I love to help Republican. I've been involved since Bob Dole, since Ronald Reagan, since George Bush father, and on and on. So, and I appreciate today that you open this up in order for us to unlock my people, Cambodian people, to understand why are we doing this, why are we coming on the air today. And thank you for having me too.
Thank you. And my name is Silak from Ohio, a community activist, also part of the, also as executive director for the Cambodian Community Council. The purpose for today's video is really to enlighten our community, to open up, because we have Cambodians across the globe, not just in the United States, who tuned in to mainly CNN and receive a lot of misinformations about the situations in America. We have Cambodians from Cambodia, South Korea, China, Thailand asking what is going on with America? Why are we destroying our own home? So today we want to be able to take that opportunity to explain the rhetoric behind what goes on in America and why President Donald Trump is labeled as a Nazi or a dictator. We want to be able to explain all of that. But before we continue, before we start, I want us to be able to take the opportunity, at least a 2 minutes silent prayer to those who died, and to George Floyd, also to the small business owners. There's about 3 of them who died protecting their business because looters attempt, so let's go ahead and take a 1 minute or 2 minutes a silent prayer for those who lost their life because of the riots. Would anybody want to say a prayer? I'm so sorry, I forgot to say that.
I think a moment of silence is good for a good 1 minute.
All right, thank you. So let's begin. Before we begin, so as you know that we come here today to explain to the community what goes on. There is a few questions from most of the Cambodian community they actually sent me these questions. So I want to be able to ask each and every one of you, and hopefully that you'll be able to enlighten the community and explain exactly what goes on. So first of all, please update us with since everyone is from different states, please let the Cambodian community know if your local government have taken any preventative measure to to help the citizens and protect the citizens from the looting and the rioting that goes on in your city. Let's start with, we'll go from bottom left, bottom right, to top left. Okay, so let's go start with Visnarian. Go ahead. If you can update the community, what goes on in your city, and if your governor have done anything at all to protect the people.
Sure. We have Governor Ned Lamont, who was elected in the office just 2 years ago. He is a Democratic governor. A lot of our state-level politicians are Democrat. Our House is controlled by the Democrat, and the Senate side is controlled by the Democrat. That part's been that way for about 40 years now. So the measures that the governor has taken, I think, let me say that the state in general, the approach that the state has taken in general is really more of a conciliatory, it's more conciliatory towards it. We're very, very understanding. I think us as an entire state is being very, very understanding of what happened. We all know what happened. George Floyd was murdered. There's no question about that. The police brutality, the level of violence that happened on that man was it's really unspeakable, and it's really tragic. And we all want justice. Every single one of us. I haven't met one person, regardless of their which sides of politics they're on, or where they're from, or what walk of life they're from. They've all want justice. Everyone is screaming for justice. And in Connecticut, since we're a land of steady habits, and a lot of we're a small state with very small community, so everybody knows everybody. And as good neighbors that we are, we don't want to bring any more violence against our own neighbors, our own cities, and our own towns. So the police departments across the state of Connecticut, we've already had a couple of protests. Danbury just had theirs today. It was very, very peaceful. The one in Bridgeport, the one in Waterbury, the one in Hartford, they were all very, very peaceful demonstrations. Now, highways were blocked, but no one was hurt. And there was maybe less than half a dozen people who law enforcement had to deal with differently. But I think in general, the state government, the elected leaders, the local elected leaders, and the police department have been very, very understanding. We're all on the same page, and we're all approaching this with very, very steady hands and a tremendously huge open heart.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Linwood, would you like to update us with, I know that Philadelphia is hit hard, we all see it in the news. Can you go ahead and update us if the governor have taken any action, or the mayor, and the situation that's in your town right now?
Well, the only action that they've basically taken is to shut things down, to still continue to isolate people until they find a way to calm everything down. We're presently under 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. curfew, except for essential personnel. That's in effect also tonight, and I'm sure will go in effect tomorrow. We've had so much looting, but the media is only showing something that projects a very bad image of the city and the country, as we know, to people who are unsuspecting or don't have an idea of what it really looks like from the other side. But there are also videos that have been taken down of people protecting properties, people actually respecting the businesses that are in their community and make sure that these thugs didn't come in and tear them up. And what people are not understanding, the image of Philadelphia is not the people that have been tearing the stores up. We've been infiltrated by Antifa, BLM, Black Lives Matters, and groups like that have been coming across the country and just causing mayhem. You know, this is their form of getting attention. Usually rallies are a lot more peaceful. People walk and they get together, they form the commonality, and then they go in and try to make differences. That's what we should be doing, trying to make differences in the law. But one thing that the people don't really understand is the media is not really a friend of the patriots at all. So we have to find means like this. And I thank you very much, Sue, and everybody for being here, because we know with this pandemic, the only way we can really continue to get the word out to people is through venues like this. And even still, we have some people who don't have the capabilities of using these type of venues. So we still got to find ways to get the words and the message out to them, to get them to understand that what they're seeing on the local news is not binding. It's not the whole truth. So that is my mission, and I'm on it, and I hope that everybody's partaking of that to just wake people up. And that's what we're doing here in Philadelphia.
And Mr. Kim K, would you like to go ahead and update you, the situation in your town, if the mayor or the governor have taken any measure, preventative measure to protect the people?
Sorry, I was on mute. Yes, the governor, who happened to be a Republican governor here out of the state of Massachusetts, with both of the houses being controlled predominantly by Democrats, he did. He ordered the National Guard deployed on the very first day that Antifa and Black Lives Matters decided to do their so-called peaceful demonstrations at 6:30 p.m. in the evening. It's just a bad recipe from the start. I'm still being very critical of the decision to allow such a so-called protest to go on at 6:30 in the afternoon. Why not 10 o'clock or 12 o'clock and during the midday or something like that manner? But nevertheless, there are many, about 4 or 5 riots going on in different cities in the state of Massachusetts. There's a lot of looting. The first night, let me go back on the first night that they decided to have the riot going on in downtown Boston. A total of 171 businesses were looted. Everything was destroyed, everything was taken, and so forth. About 5 to 10 police officers were injured, and so forth. And the next day, the governor did come out and applaud the peaceful protester for those who did not participate in the destructions of property and all of that, and he strongly condemned those as well. So right now, I saw a couple of my folks on Facebook posting that a couple of Antifa were gathering not that far from my house at a UMass Lowell campus for another protest somewhere in nearby city. So having said that, yes, he has taken a lot of preventive measured in squelching any of rioters in destroying the city. Unfortunately, things just got out of hand. There was nothing that anyone could have done. I think it could have been done personally, but I just believe that the media have hyped up so much that our law enforcement personnel or our law enforcement agencies were too afraid to make a strong arrest or make a statement that, you know, would hose any one of them that may have gotten out of hands, and just too many of them. So that's a very unfortunate thing to see.
Your voice, Sue.
Mute, so.
Mute.
Thank you, sorry. Thank you so much, Mr. Let's move on to Mr. Paul. I know that you're in Minnesota, the heart of where the protests and the looting, the vandalism all starts. Can you give us a little update to see if there's any preventative measure, or if the National Guard is deployed, or how many business was destroyed? Can you please provide us a little update for the Minnesota side?
Yeah, thank you. First of all, I want to tell you about the good news that Attorney General of Minnesota raising that former officer from first degree to second degree murder. And also the former 3 officers been taken to jail, locked up, 3 of them. And I all want to tell you that about Minnesota a little bit. Minnesota used to be they call it a Minnesota nice, a beautiful state, beautiful people. But after the 80, and then we start some issue, big crime all the time, and racism, and then start until now. So the problem in Minnesota is you know, it start getting burned out because of that. I don't blame anybody, but it should be stopped in the first place, and then before they get bigger and bigger. And also, the people that come into Minnesota to protest, and mostly from our state, 80% from the other state. And the people of Minnesota is not go down and burn anybody business, so like that. It just people from outside, like you say, Antifa, and then like, you know, all that stuff. That make it state Minnesota get a bad reputation. Yeah, that's number one. And also the business being you know, burned, loot up everywhere, Kmart, Target store, and burn the police car, and then destroy the precinct, police precinct. And also Minnesota have 2 cities, they call Twin City, one in St. Paul, one in Minneapolis. Yeah, both cities been get hurt and been looting, you know, and even all that minority business, mostly in downtown St. Paul in Minneapolis, mostly minority Cambodian get, you know, business been get like more than 10 business been burned out and destroyed, messed up everything. And it's really hard for that immigrant refugee came here, and you start from the bottom up, work 7 days a week, 14, 16 hours a day, and then depend on that business, and now it's not being destroyed by the people from outside the state. That is not that really good at all. It's very sad, yeah, for the state of Minnesota, yeah.
Thank you so much, Now, Mr. Tapana, you're in Long Beach, and I've seen a few clips of Long Beach is the heart of the Cambodian community, actually the Cambodian town. Can you please update us what had happened to our Cambodian town, and how many business was destroyed, and if the city, mayor, and governor have done anything at all to protect the people in the town?
Yes, thank you, Sue. Thank you, everyone. Nice to hear from all of you that have devoted yourself to contribute to the cause. Yes, Long Beach has been my town, my hometown. I live in the middle of Cambodia town here. We contribute to this community very much. We, you know, done from the scratch. We deal from the refugee, the nothing refugee came here. Now we form a town that's called Cambodian town. And Cambodian town has been, you know, on and off. I've been here. I witnessed so many things going on since 80. You know, I know so gang wars going on since early 80. When we came here, stay here, we have some dispute with, you know, another group. So, you know, we build from the scratch. Now it's sad to see that for me, myself, I've been into this situation twice. Which is 1993 when Rodney King is going on. I was involved deeply because I have one friend of mine, he's a police officer. He took me to the ride with him to go around and see things in 1993. And I been taking my van to protect the community, biggest building called UCC, United Cambodian Community Building. We still there. We arm with ourselves with a gun, and then stand around to you know, protect from the looter burning the building down. So now this is the second time, but I didn't have a chance to do that. But I seen in front of my eye that like I live video now. It's so viral right now. It's like you know, 30 or 40K are watching my live video that they hit the hottest. They call it a jewelry store. Cambodian own a lot of jewelry stores, probably about 10 of them here surrounding. And then those people who understand about the bad people, the riot, the peaceful demonstration is fine. in downtown Long Beach. But this is kind of little side, like 20 minutes away from downtown. They came here, they put together a plan to hit all the jewelry store, and they didn't knock down the jewelry store, knock down the door. They come grab a few things, but many stores been destroyed. Many stores been destroyed. So right now everybody bought up with with the word, so they scare. We are completely scared. But the Long Beach PD has done a very good job. They came along, they patrol all around, but you can't stop the doors. Too many of them that came in and trying to destroy this community. And I feel so sad. I would pledge to all these people, please, we are the people. We would like to see the peaceful resolution. Come express your feeling peacefully without looting, without doing any damage to any other people. So, we are here in America. We want to build America. We build America together. America was not free because of that. America was free because people died for that. So we would like to see if we can build America together. I think that what's going on in Cambodian community here right now is stunned by this COVID-19. Not even finished. It's about to open up. Now what happened? The looting, the destruction. So I would pledge to everyone that has the mindset to do the protest about Floyd, George Floyd. I feel sympathy for Mr. George Floyd. I know that nobody can dispute that. It's clearly that they are doing bad thing to him. They kill him. So, I would love to see you express your feeling the right way. Okay, so Long Beach has been quiet. Now, last night it was quiet. And today also I haven't hear any silence going on right now. So, and that's what it should be. That's what it should happen. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So a little update on the Ohio side. Like Mr. Holland said, we can't believe in everything that mass media portrays and puts out there. Based on mass media, they show downtown Columbus destroyed when there's only one or two business. That's still a lot, one or two. But our governor has taken preventative measure by setting up curfews. There's not a lot of protesters and looters around our area, so thank God for that. And there's not a lot of business that's destroyed, maybe because almost everyone here are armed. We have our guns, and that the Second Amendment is the only thing that protects the citizens, the only thing that we have that we can protect ourselves. So a lot of the folks around here, my neighborhood, downtown area, almost everyone has some type of they have a concealed license, and they also have a gun to protect the families and the community. So you don't see a lot of protesters and looters around our area because of that. Thank God for the Second Amendment. But so just to go ahead and continue, this third question is a little bit of a heated question from one of our Cambodian American community. He asked, he made a statement by saying that peaceful protest does not work. Peaceful protests, we've done so many peaceful protests, and the message has never gotten out there. The only way to get the message out is through looting, vandalisms, and destroying the community. Do you believe looting, vandalizing, rioting justify the police brutality that has happened with George Floyd? And do you believe that the looting and vandalism justify racism that is portrayed by mass media? We'll go ahead and start with Mr. Holland.
Well, of course it's glorified. Media is glorifying the tragedies and everything. If you look at it, moved away from the tragedy into the stage of just showing about the looting. We know that people are in pain, and they have different ways of expressing pain. While I don't advocate for the destruction of communities where you have to rebuild them and live at. I kind of do understand, and I want people outside of those communities to understand what happens on a daily basis is what you just saw one time or two times or maybe 3 or 4 times displayed by the media at, if you think about it, appropriate times when it benefited them. It wasn't at times when it benefited the person or the people who have been downtrodden. It hasn't benefited them. We're in a situation now where our economy was booming. Life being American was just starting to really take a big turn. And everybody knows if you're living in a democratic city, this term was really going really well. We had a fighter in the White House who withstood 3 years of lies and all kind of torment to destroy him, but yet he stood with us. So this is a very important time. We have to stand with our president and make sure that we identify for people to understand that they were looters and they were protesters. And we have to make that clear that the definition of the two of them were different. And where the question as far as does he think that the only way to achieve this was rioting, I disagree with him, because I think this brought a lot more people together, because things we saw before didn't touch people the way this touched everybody. This touched every nationality, every race, every human being it touched. I don't know if a person saw this and didn't feel something, I would just assume that they're not human. But since this touched everybody, that would have been enough of a movement. And we already had a situation that was better than previous ones. He was already locked up. So all we were asking for was the prosecution of the rest of the people who were involved in it. So I think we were going in a good direction. And the looters that were sent out there to do this destruction were to distract and distort from away what was really going on. So as far as this question with the violence and the looting, that won't help anything. That'll just set most of the people in the community back a little bit as far as their taxes go, and they'll be raised so they have to pay for everything all over again. So I don't agree that helped at all.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Kemke, would you like to go ahead and do you believe that looting and vandalism justified the cost?
Yeah, on mute.
Thank you. Violence has never justified for anything at all, regardless of anyone who wanted to justify to get the message out and so forth. The destruction of someone else's property is never to be justified by any means at all. For those people who is like said, well, we need to do this in order to get our word out, in order to get people to notice who we are. Well, great, that's your point of view. I'm glad that you bring up such a question like that, and the destruction of property is a way to get people's attention. Let me throw it back in the scenario. What if somebody, one of your children, tried to get your attention and you keep ignoring and say, yes, yes, I heard you. Yes, I heard you. I'm going to do something about it. I've done something about it. And one of your children turn around and just take a sledgehammer and go through your house and just have a total destruction in the kitchen, in the house, in the bathroom, and everything. How would you respond to that? If the parents, whoever asked that question, if the parents said, no, that's not acceptable. Well, if that's not acceptable, what makes you think that it is acceptable for these rioters to go and loot and steal some people's property that they're working so hard for it, to destroy everything what they've earned in order to justify the means? There's nothing justify the means. Nothing, period. There's nothing to it whatsoever. And I do agree with Linwood that the media is glorifying the whole thing here. And then they glorify and say it's all Trump's fault. Well, I am so sorry. Bonsa Paula said it. He's right there in the, in the epicenter of the entire thing here. It was District Attorney, then Amy Klobuchar refuses to bring a charges against Derek Chauvin for the 13 times that there was a lot of complaint about him for police brutality and so forth. She didn't do anything. The entire down of the political apparatus within the Minneapolis area did not want to do any of those. And then all of a sudden, it's Donald Trump is the one that has a lot of incendiary comments, making all of these nothing to unify the country. They want him to say anything about unification of the country, they're feeling good about everything. But on the contrary, the news media and everyone else go and do it the opposite way. And then they turn around and say, well, it's Trump's fault. Trump said this and Trump said that. Oh, he's a Hitler. Oh, he's doing everything as a photo op, going to the church and so forth. But the president trying to unite, no matter what the president trying to do and try to say, he's at fault. And then then they turn around and said, well, the president needs to shut up. He needs to stop tweeting about everything. Well, if the news media would actually report what they need to report, the accuracy of the information instead of like embellishing, glorifying, and sensationalize everything, people wouldn't be doing this thing. So that's a very sad thing that I'm looking at it. I'm trying to walk in the middle of this crisis that we're looking at here, and people accusing me that I don't know how black folk feel about, being murdered, being oppressed, and so forth. I can honestly tell you, no, I cannot be able to tell you how I know how they feel. I don't. If I were to ask them and said, do you know how they feel, what I went through during the Khmer Rouge regime, eat dirt, eat roots, eat grass, eat anything that we could do to survive, could they have been comprehend what I have gone through? No, I'm not going to ask them to sympathize with what I've gone through, but just listen to what I have to tell you. And that's all. That's the only thing I can do is lend my ears. So if you're asking me to be very sympathetic to the cause, yes, I'm sympathetic to the cause. But violence, looting, and the destruction of property is not the way to do it.
Thank you so much. Welcome, Kay. Let's move on to Visna. Do you believe that violence, looting justified the cause? You're on mute.
I'm sorry, I was muted. You probably saw me twitching a little bit earlier. It's because it's raining out here and I'm doing this whole thing outside. But the short answer to that is absolutely not. I've done war. I've seen war. I spent 10 years in the military. I did a couple deployments. I've been to Afghanistan, and mind you, that's war. That's war, and we're fighting an enemy that doesn't wear uniforms, an enemy that sometimes you just don't know who it may be. But there's always going to be violence. If you look at a Shakespeare play, what happens with Romeo and Juliet? Shakespearean tragedy, right? One family goes back against the other. It goes back and forth until what? Until a legacy is gone. I saw an extremely powerful video today. Ironically, coincidentally, saw an extremely powerful video of a 47-year-old black man and a 31-year-old black man and a 16-year-old black man. The 47-year-old black man was extremely angry. Understandable. Listen, it's all understandable. We all get it. I get it. And it was in the middle of the streets, and you have spectators all around you. And he's screaming. He's wanting violence. He's wanting vengeance. He wants justice. I mean, we all want justice. He's screaming at the top of his lungs. He wants to charge the police officer. He wants to charge the police line. And then came the voice of reason, the 31-year-old gentleman, who comes in and stops him. And as he's yelling, as he's going off, the 31-year-old gentleman says, I hear you. Tell me more. I hear you. And then he grabs the 16-year-old and he brings him right by, stands him next to the 47-year-old man. He looks at the 16-year-old. He goes, you're 47. He's 16. You tell him what you think you want him to do. Because what you did after the 92, 93 riots, after Rodney King, what you did, guess what? We're still here. We are still here. So did it work? Did all that violence work? It brought us the first black president. Great. I voted for Obama the first time. We brought us the first black president. It brought pop culture to a whole new level. We got rich millionaires, rich billionaires, rich black role models. You know, we have all that, but we still have this problem. every story has a plot. Every plot needs an antagonist. Every plot needs a protagonist. I think right now, where we are in America, we are unsure as a nation of who the antagonist is or what the antagonist is. Is the antagonist the white man? Is the antagonist the government? Is it the so-called deep state? Who is the antagonist? And I think we need to look beyond that and look a little bit deeper and see what the antagonist is, which I think is ignorance. And I think we can't have an honest discussion, cannot have an honest discussion about this whole thing entirety unless we can identify what is that we don't know. But that was an extremely powerful video when that 31-year-old man was pleading with that 16-year-old to please figure out another way because this is not working. It hasn't worked. It didn't work in 92. The violence that we bring, the looting, the vandalism, it's just not working. It's rinse, wash, and repeat, and we're just gonna go in cycles again in the next 20, 30 years. That's what I'm afraid of. So that whole excuse or justification for vandalism, for looting, I don't think some of these folks have any idea the pain and the suffering they bring to people, to business owners, to family members, to minorities. A lot of these businesses are minority businesses. These mom and pops, it's hard for them to recover. Some of them have a riot clause where it doesn't cover riots. It doesn't cover that kind of vandalism. Their livelihood is down the drain. You take that away from them. Guess what? The life of George Floyd might have been taken, and it's gone. It's not coming back. And we're trying to find justice for him as a country. But the idea that justice is going to come from more violence, I think this is a little bit beyond politics. This is a little bit beyond partisanship. We got to look at our humanity. We got to look at our humanity before we dig deeper into the politics of this. So my short answer is no. Is violence the answer? No, it's never been. It's never been. And this is coming from a guy who's spent 10 years in the military and done war. Well, I fought the Taliban in those mountains. We fought Talibans in those mountains. And guess what? They're still there. They're still there. We had the provincial reconstruction team, the reconstruction team. The idea that we're going to rebuild. We had these small little combat, the Army teams, the military and U.S. State Department teams, and civil affairs teams. We had these smaller teams packaged up and thrown into far provinces in Afghanistan who were there to fight the bad guys and then to rebuild. And let me tell you, it didn't turn out the way we wanted to. Why? Because violence is always going to be there. Because the mindset of the other person on the other side of that rifle, on that AK, was that we're going to keep on coming. We're just going to keep on coming. It's not going to get anywhere. It's just not. And we live in America where we live in a republic. We have a constitution. We have the justice system. We have laws. We have law enforcement. We have a civil society. And I think the idea that violence is going to solve something, I'm telling you right now, it's not. Because the moment you think that person thinks that they're going to get something out of this, I guarantee you that man, that 31-year-old man with two or three children and his wife, who's just trying to get by, is going to look at you and say, "I don't think so, pal. You're not gonna create this kind of chaos and terror for my family." And a great majority and great portion of America is like that right now. What I believe. We totally understand the anger, the frustration. But like that 31-year-old black man said on the streets to that 16-year-old and 47-year-old, you got to find a better way. Find a better way, because it's going to repeat itself in 20, 30 years.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your in-depth answer. Mr. Sapal, you're in like the heart, the epicenter of the riots. Do you believe with all that destructions, because a lot of people are saying the riots and looting justifies the cost. Do you believe that it justified the cost?
For me, I don't go along with that. I disagreement with that. This country is built with the rule of law. Okay, and First Amendment is free speech. You have right to protest whatever you want. You a right to say what you want. Okay, but you don't have a right to destroy everybody's business. It's for the community that you live with. Start from scratch, and you messed up everybody. And go meet everybody, throw something on that. That's not the way you protest to get the thing changed. Dr. King been say that is, you when you do that, you do a violent and all that. It's again Dr. King. It's what he preach all, and then he sacrificed his life because he want everybody to change and peacefully. That number one. And number two, the thing that you're coming down and like Donald Trump. And the reason I like him because he's again the communist, the far left. Coming down and it's changed the way that United States is built for 200 some years. Everybody coming from all over around the world to build this country, especially refugee. I'm a refugee. It's immigrant come they put their butts out. 7 days a week, 14 hours a day to raise their kid to get a better life. To get away from the communists that cater and when you come down here, you start destroying their life, their dream, and that's not the way it is. And especially in the state of Minnesota, it's the thing that everybody think that okay, and the way that the former officer is, killed that George, that's a murder. That we not agree with that. He deserved to go locked up or go by the rule of law. And then that the way it's supposed to be. Everybody think about it. And you're coming down from Antifa, left, all that come destroy from different states with somebody give the money coming down here. Destroy the state of Minnesota. They call it Minnesota nice. So we're not nice no more now. It's bothered me a lot. That's need to be changed. And I watching it, Rodney King interview on some channel, I don't know, but years ago, he crying. Even he have a lot of money and he's still dreaming. He still bothering him all day and I could sleep. He say, because of him, everything destroyed. Who's destroyed? It's a minority. It's bird get killed. That not supposed to be this country all about. You have to respect the law. And that's what we build all about. Build this country about. So the thing is right now that the way state Minnesota right now is the people in Minnesota, they destroy your business, stuff like that. And now look at that. They put him to second degree. Right now, they arrest 3 more officers, and then the human right can go check the police, by 10 years. And that's the law. That's the way the community have to be working. And then you have to hate Trump, everything Trump, and the far left coming down, destroy everything. That I don't like it. It's bothering me. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. And let's move on to Mr. Trapana. Since half of the Cambodian town is now destroyed, do you believe that all that vandalism, the looting really justified the cause of the movement for George Floyd?
Yeah, thank you, Sue. Thank you very much. Yes, like I mentioned earlier and all of you mentioned, I agree with you 100%. This is not justified at all. This is called looting. This is called not American. American, I went around. I'm so proud to be an American. I went overseas as an American. I went over to Shanghai 3 or 4 years ago. I'm proud because every country around the world look up to American. Even though I am not pure American, I am just what they call Cambodian American. But, they have the good sense of humor. They have sense of a helping hand. They have a very nice attitude, very nice character to go around the world to be respected. But now they look at us as people that with chaos, go around looting and then doing bad damage to our own community, our own country. I came here as a refugee 45 years ago. I never know nothing about America. I don't even know where America is. But now I raised my 3 children here in a Cambodian town with 60 to 70,000 people that are living here. That's the largest concentration of Cambodian people that are living in this community. We are trying to adopt the American system. We look up to American. Doesn't matter black or white or any color. We are friends. We are one melting pot. Okay. We want to learn from each other, our culture. We share our culture together. But now it's people that come around and doing this rioting, looting, bad thing. Is make us look bad, make American name look bad around the world. Okay, so please, I please for you to not to continue this nonsense that it does not help America. It does not help American continue to be a superpower of the world because of our president, because of our people. We are the people voting for the president. When we vote for President Trump, we trusted in him. We might have the difference between mindset. You vote for some other, and I vote for one, and I vote for President Trump, 2016. And then I remember, I feel proud of what he has done. He has done so much for America. He has done so many things compared to the leader in my country, okay, Cambodia. It's a big difference. Trump, he pledged to say, keep America great again, which is he did. What he promised in the campaign, he did so many things. And I'm so proud of Mr. Trump. Mr. Donald Trump is a great man. He might be a little anxious, and he might be a little harsh with some point, but give a guy a chance because he loves America and you hate him. He loves America. He wants to contribute his cause to America, his expertise to America. But now one thing that I like the most about Mr. Donald Trump goes with the flow with which I don't like about communism. I learned about communism in Cambodia. They shut down and killed my people, 3 million people. And then we have to escape our life and death, come to America. And when I live peacefully, and then I have marry and get my family here with my children, my 3 children here, that born here, all 3 of them. And then now, Mr. Donald Trump declared that communism is no place in the world. Communists is come and kill people, kill human beings. They don't do nothing like human beings. And I will sit down in front of TV and I imagine, I put my imagination on that. Wow, these people are arrested with destiny. They have been arrested, handcuffed with a white plastic handcuff, and they knew that they're going to be let go tomorrow. But my country, no. When my country, my parents, my family has been arrested into the concentration camp 1975 to 79, they knew that their future is not going to be coming by anymore. They're going to be gone. But over here, that's why they continue by please America. Look at the other country around the world. They are looking up to America because we are the savior. If the America allow the communists to penetrate into this country, the communists will do their thing. Will start killing, start destruction America. So I would plead all of you to please allow President to do their thing, his thing. He is doing something unique for America, which is, I believe, he is one of the best presidents that I can see so far. And I want to appreciate Donald Trump. I will gathering my family, my vote, and my friend, and all my Cambodian friends to vote for you in 2020 because I know you are one of the best that I can see. Thank you very much. On mute, Sue. On mute.
Thank you so much. Personally, for me, I do not believe in violence. I believe that violence does not solve the problem. If you look in history, during this, when Dr. Martin Luther King led the movement, do you see any destruction during his time? There was a peaceful movement with Dr. Martin Luther King where thousands upon thousands marched on the street. So he's like a symbol for peaceful unity, peaceful protest. And a lot of these protesters who said they are protesting for the good cause really need to look back, step back, listen to what Dr. King has to say, because he is a smart man who made changes, in this country. So I do not believe that violence justified the cause. If you really want to make a change, start practicing what Dr. Martin Luther King had fought for us, peaceful protests, and register to vote. That's another way to fight. Register to vote. Go out there and vote those who are in control of your states, in control of your city. Remember, the 10th Amendment, which does not allow the federal to intervene into your states and your city. So which means that your governor, your mayor is in control of your city, your state. So if you want to make a difference, go out there and vote. Vote them out and look at their track records. Look at the record to see what have they done for your, what have those Democrats leader that has a lot of destructions and, chaos. What have they done for your city? Look at their records, okay? Because the record says it all. If you look at Nancy Pelosi, she's been 33 years, and then Joe Biden, 43 years. Do you see any changes? Do you see any progress within your town? President Donald Trump has only stepped in for 3 years, and yet you push all the blame on him. So if you want to make a difference, register, go out there and vote, because that's the way you make a difference. Not out there destroying the town, because it does not justify the cost. Thank you so much. So we have 2 more questions from our Cambodian community. The last 2 questions is, the first one is, within the protest, there's different groups that says they're protesting for the cause. Some of the Cambodian community heard of the name Antifa, or anti-fascism, Black Lives Movement. And then there's something new that just popped up, Black Tuesday. And then there's Hillary white liberals that Van Joan mentioned. So all of these has been thrown at the Cambodian community, which they're really confused to who's really who's the protesters, who's the looters, and who's the rioters. So we want to be able to clarify that information. We'll start off with Mr. Holland. If you can explain to us those different groups and what their goals, their missions, and what they do, and if their action justified the cause. Thank you, sir.
I'll start with the most recent. I think we saw prior to this riot, I think in 2016 we saw the Hillary liberals, how they performed. Once the election didn't go the way that they wanted to go, they wanted to tear up, but I think people really forgot about that right now. Did they tear up the towns and cause problems everywhere they went? So these are the same groups of sore losers that have been attacking the president's ideology for the last 3 years. George Soros. Antifa is George Soros. So when you say that name, you're talking about an organizer of I would call it a combat force, because he deploys them all around the world, not just here in the United States. And these are, I call them paid mercenaries. And as Vesna would know by being in the military, that these are mercenaries that get paid to come in. They don't follow any specific orders in a platoon as we do when we have an Army and Navy here, but they're just set up. Let's say what they are. They're hired obstructionists. So he funds them. I mean, they actually get paid up to like $2,500 a day. So you see their motivation out there. If you go grab some kids, young kids that have no experience, or they've been caught up in the criminal justice system and their life is ruined, this is a lot of money and a lot of opportunity, and they can keep doing it as long as they are destructive. So you see in most of these cities, the destruction has been for 6 to 7 days. That should show everybody right then and there what type of leadership you're under in your state. If for 6 or 7 days you're not accomplishing any progress to combat the force that's coming at you, then I think the rest of your citizens are not safe. You might as well, like Sue said, get your guns or lay down and die. But what happened is we do have somebody that looks out for us. So he says, if they're not going to watch out for you, we're going to send a National Guard out to protect you from the groups that he knows are existing out there. See, the problem is we need to load up our listeners with some information, some facts, and we need to let them know that they need to be fact finders. And they need to fact check everything the media says. Just because it's said doesn't mean it's true. They might put a word in there that leads you to believe the hysteria or the hype that they want to project to you. So I would advise everybody to fact check. Don't take my word about George Soros or the white Hillary liberals or the Antifa or any of the groups. I want you to go on the easiest means that you have, your phone, that you have the internet, and you can plug that in. You'll be able to find all that information. Secondly, when we defend the president, we have to defend him in terms of he's not your typical politician. You knew that. We all knew that going into this. So you were going to have some adjustment, adaptability, and changes that needed to go for the vision that he has for you, the vision that he has for our country, and for us to be self-productive. I mean, I remember growing up, the United States, we pretty much distributed to the whole world. Now we became consumers and we like lost our minds. So I just think people should check out those groups that I said, see what they're about for yourself, and still stay a part of us as your community groups to get you information. It's our responsibility as we learn this information to get. I always tell people that's my job, 24/7 a day. You go out and do the work that you need to do. My job is to go gather the information and find out the resources that you need to be safe, protected, and be prosperous in the American dream as it's planned for all of us. So that is what I do every day for everybody. And I hope that they can go out and do their job knowing that I'm going to do 100% to make sure that the laws that protect us and the Constitution as we know it is going to be granted to us, one number to the next number, all the way to the end of the Constitution. So my main thing that I want everybody to know is the fact check. You don't have to just take my word for it. I gave you the information, the names, you look it up, and you discern from it with your own ability. Whether you see with your God-given ability, what you feel when you see. Don't let me tell you one side. Don't let nobody else tell you one side. You need to get this information for yourself. Right now, you have us on the line right here, and we're giving you the best information that you could get, that you didn't have to look for. We have it here for you, and we're making it available for you because we care about you, and we care about our country, and we don't want to see what's happening continue to happen for 7 more days or 1 more day. I don't want to see it happen no more. So we have to get the word out to the people and let them understand that, yes, okay, there's a difference between the rioting and there's a difference between the protesting. We're on the protesting side. We have to eliminate the rioters because they're making us look bad.
Okay, so
So you muted again.
Sorry. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Holland. I'm going to go ahead and address that to Mr. Kim K as well. The same question, sir. Can you please explain to the Cambodian community who are the Antifa, what is their goal, their missions, and also the different groups that's within the protester? Because we do have a confused community because they never heard of Antifa before, or Black Lives Matter, or Hillary supporter that Van Jones has mentioned. Thank you so much, sir. Go ahead.
Well, appreciate it. First and foremost, I have never heard of Hillary liberals, but the way Lynn would describe it, it doesn't surprise me. These are a whole bunch of folks who, in the old days, what we call it, sore losers. You lost the election and you go and honor destruction. This is nothing less than a whole bunch of spoiled children who couldn't get their way with their parents because the parents decided to ground them and they just go on a total destructions in their room and so forth, kicking the ground until it is going like 5 feet deep in order to get what they want. It's just a whole bunch of losers. The Antifa, otherwise known as what, anti-fascists, to me they are anti-First Amendment. That's what FA stands for, because they will go out of their way to shame people. They will go out their way on destructions, beating up people, hitting people that dare to oppose their political opinions or their philosophies and so forth. And, you know, the president could be right. I don't know the entire detail intimately in terms of law enforcement and interpretation of it. They could be a terrorist organization that live in the United States itself. And how could they call themselves anti-fascists or against anyone who has a fascist oppression of the American people when they are the one that go around beating up people because they have a different opinion. The fist fighting in the last couple of years between American freedom-loving people and the Antifa has become so much, has caused so much hatred among Americans. It is uncalled for. The Black Lives Matter, great. I mean, this is one of the organizations for intended to bring out the atrocity, the oppressions of a very particular community that has been oppressed with the perceptions, if need be, or for the reality, if much more the case, is that we do need to move forward. The Black Lives Matter organization has a good intended in terms of bring the value in terms of to the mainstream and to many other into many other communities to let them know what they have had experience as a Black community in the United States in the last 200-300 years and give us a better education and all of that. But the unfortunate thing about the Black Lives Matter, from what my observation, is that the Black Lives Matters allow the militant folks to come in to infiltrate their philosophy in terms of having their good intentions of making the oppressions, the equity of the people that living among communities, among friends, among families, and all of that, and they take that idea and perverted the whole thing. It is just very sad to see someone that was doing like that. Bring it back about 4 or 5 years ago when Hun Sen's elder son, Hun Manet, came into the city of Law. We organized, I was one of the lead organizers to protest against him to come to the city of Law. And there was a couple of people who trying to do a very destructive manner. The first thing that I did, I just grabbed that gentleman by, the armpit like this and lift him up and push him back. And I said, that's not what our cause is. That's not what our intent is. Our intent is to have a very peaceful protest and let our voice heard that the oppressor, a communist dictator, that transformed himself from a Khmer Rouge to call himself a liberator, that is currently been ruling Cambodia with an absolutely dictatorship. We cannot have that. And I think this is the same thing that I am not opposing to have Antifa, Hillary liberals, or Black Lives Matters, or any other organization, whether it's a radical or non-radical, for whatever the classification they happen to be. Like Paul said, we are here with the First Amendment. We have the right to protest. And a peacefully assembly is been embedded in the First Amendment in the U.S. Constitution. That's what we need to do. We shall not and cannot allow rioters, militants to come to destroy any of the community that we have built in many generations.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I had myself mute. Thank you, Mr. Kim K. The same question for the snack. Can you please explain to the Cambodian community, our community, who are the Antifa, Black Lives Matter, and also the Hillary liberal?
I thought the Hillary liberals were called Karens. I thought they were called Karens and Coopers.
Is that including men too? I don't know.
I think the men are called the Coopers.
Oh, the Coopers? Okay,
Coopers.
Thank you. I'll keep that in mind. Coopers and Karens. Okay, yeah. Thank you.
So what I know of Antifa, well, let's begin by saying Antifa is the biggest walking contradiction in the political movement right now in America. They claim to be against fascism. They claim to be, against big government, but they're very, very quick. They're very quick to come at you should you have an opinion that deviates from theirs. Should you have any ideology, any opinions that is different from this group, they will be very, very quick to come at you with a lot of verbal abuse, with a lot of profanities, and maybe a sock with a master lock in it. This is from what I've seen is an extremely violent group when they're together. Now, it's not. They are militant. I agree with Mr. Hoeun. This is a militant group. They are mercenaries. They're political mercenaries, but they're political mercenaries to the extreme. Now, we do have extremes on both sides. We have extremes on the right. We have extremes on the left. And we're going to call them out. I'm going to call them out if they're on the Republican side. I will call you out if you're an extreme. And I also will call you out if you're an extremist on the left side. But they are a loose association. They're instigators. They're usurpers. They're insurgents. They're disruptive. They're obstructionists. They're beyond obstructionists. I've seen, and the irony of this is that, and like Mr. Hoeun said, do your own research and find out what Antifa is. You could take some of what we give you. I can only give you from what I know and what I understand, and then do your own research and decide for yourself: is Antifa a good and righteous organization, or is it another walking contradiction? Is it a hypocrite? If it's a hypocritical organization with a really hypocritical ideology. Excuse me. But if you look at Antifa, they're very, very loose. There's no central leadership for Antifa, separate of maybe George Soros as far as when it comes to funding. I personally don't have any evidence of that. I haven't seen much evidence of that, of the linkage between Antifa and George Soros. There is a lot of circumstantial evidence. There is a lot of talk and a lot of rumors, which again we also can't deny. But they are a group that reminds me of the terror cells, and dare I say, the terror cells in Iraq. And the reason why I say that, because I read the playbook of General Stanley McChrystal. Can you guys hear the thunder in the background? I'm still outside. So I read the playbook of General Stanley McChrystal when he was brought into Iraq during the height of the insurgency. And his playbook against the insurgency there was based off an algorithm. It was genius. It was genius the way war fighting was done against terrorists in Iraq. And it really minimized collateral damage. It minimized troop death and troop casualties by almost, I want to say, 60%. And it's simply because they identified the insurgency in these terror cells in Iraq as individual cells, no central leadership. So you have these little cells, these little blobs operating independently. And that's what we have in Antifa, is you have these groups in different states who operate independently. So you're not going to get that central leadership. So that's where it's going to get tough when you're looking at the law enforcement aspect of this, and the legal aspect of this, where I think it's going to get a little bit tricky to identify exactly what kind of organization Antifa is and who to hold accountable when violence does occur in our neighborhoods and our communities. And you get down to the weeds of it. But I think what's going to end up happening is you just got to start treat it the way we treat a hate crime, right? How we're going to deal, and I hope it's the way we're going to deal with this Officer Chavez who murdered George Floyd. I hope he gets charged with a hate crime. And the other three, I hope they get charged with something. I hope they get charged with the same things because they were instrumental in this. But when you charge someone with a hate crime, there's an additional jail time. There's an additional punishment layered on top of what you're originally going to get from the state level courts. So this is what I like to see get done with Antifa. But the irony in all this, and again, do your own research and look. And I hate to make things about race, but we are talking about race relations. We are talking about race and politics. Okay, if you look at almost every Antifa picture and video, go ahead and try to find me one black member who is Antifa. You're going to find that that's going to be really, really tough. I'm seeing a lot of videos coming out from the streets. Excuse me. I'm seeing videos of black folks in their own community, strong and fearless black folks in their own community, stopping that Karen, that Cooper, and that face mask with the Antifa symbol and the Antifa shirt, stopping them from passing out bricks to young black men, young, impressionable black men who might have given a mob mentality. These Antifa folks, they're driving around. They're the usurpers, the instigators, and the insurgency. They want this chaos. They want this chaos. But I'm seeing the black community stand strong against them. I'm telling you, there's a lot that the mainstream media is not showing you. And there's some of these politicians, left-leaning politicians, these Democrats, who feed the mainstream media some of these lies, some of this misdirection, and some of these false narratives. You look out there in social media, there's a lot of content out there in social media with strong black women, strong black men, stopping these Antifa folks from breaking more windows, from throwing bricks, from hurting more people. Go on social media and see it for yourself. Hopefully Mark Zuckerberg and those folks at Twitter doesn't censor this. But go see it for yourself and see what Antifa is really made of and who they really are. I'm not a big fan of theirs. I'm not a big fan of anyone who tries to silence another just because of their opinions. Look, I don't like hate language, okay? I don't like the racial injustices. I'm a minority myself. You know, we're all people of color here. But you also got to understand that this country was built on a constitution. It didn't start off perfectly. It did not start off perfectly, but you have perfect human beings like Malcolm X. You have perfect human beings like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. who came along the way. You have those perfect human beings who came along the way and put us in the right direction, okay? And I think we need to, I believe we all need to get back on there, every single one of us. But we have to identify what the problem is, not who the problem is. And it doesn't help when you have folks like Antifa, white folks, I'm going to say it, white folks driving around in our communities right now who are dealing with this pain of a murdered black man, driving around and instigating more violence. If you want to see where some of these vandals and some of these looting happens, that spark starts with those folks, some of the people in that group. So that's who I believe, that's what and who I believe Antifa is. But again, please, to the Cambodia community, to the American community, to everybody, do your own research, come up, find your own answers, and make your own minds, and make your own decisions. And hopefully that's enough to get you to walk away and join the Republican Party and support President Trump.
Thank you.
Amen to that.
Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and move on to Lugon Sapal. I know you did some research on the Antifa group, the origin of where the Antifa came from. Would you like to go ahead and explain to the community who are the Antifa and where they're from?
Sure. Yeah, and also I want to clarify with Cambodian people that where the Antifa come from. And also, think about this, this country is a free country. Also, all Cambodian they come from, escape from the communist Cambodia. You know how the communists is kill a lot of people and more than World War I, World War II. So Antifa is originated come from Europe, Germany. It's this Marxism. It's based on the hatred, hate everything, hate material, hate whatever you rich, They just as one world, and that nobody, control nobody. Just you be black is black, if you're red is red. So I come from that country that I lose 2/3 of my family. 3 million of Cambodian people get killed, and also the land my great-grandparents for 1,000 years passed on, and they all took and missed all that. So I agree with President Trump that as long as he lives, there's no socialism in America, there's no communist America. And I see what he sees, and I smell it, the company coming down here to destroy America. So we don't want to happen like that. So the bottom line is Antifa is the communist masses. Okay, it's people don't see it, realize it, that this very dangerous group. I'm glad that they put them as a terrorist group. Thank God for that. They're very dangerous, and they are like people say you are, say it's like a SEAL team and a professional organizer crime. You know, they very well sponsored money come from like let's say George Soros and to destroy everybody. It's a time that we all have to think about it for your grandkids, your grandchildren in the future, that the communists coming down here to destroy everybody. People build, you know, we current through civil war, 200 years to build this country to be a free country for everybody, free speech. We don't need that. And people in America, you know, everybody seem like forget it, relaxing. But the terrorists in America right now, you know, you have all kinds of terrorists here, and you forget it. And one day you will see how those people treating you. You see how they destroy the business, how they throw the rock at you. And then you will see in Europe, even Europe, they destroy everything, Antifa, Marxism, you know. And so we don't need that. We have to put them away. We don't need that socialist here. We don't need the communists here. And that's what we have to support President Trump, that the one to see for 20 years, 30 years from now. And people don't feel like him. You know, he's a businessman coming down, and he's a New York guy, talk like in New York. You know how people talk in New York? He's big talk. But the heart inside is a very nice guy. And they want to make this country to be like used to be when they built it, when George Washington built this country for free, for everybody to have a good life and live together and to be peaceful. You don't want anybody coming down and Marxism come and take this country. Yeah, it's not supposed to be. And so that's what is Antifa all about. It's very dangerous. It's the team, like Len would say, it's just like a cell, you know, like terrorist cell, like Al Qaeda, you know, like all that people. They're hiding somewhere and with big money pay, well trained. So when it's opportunity coming down, like what happened to George right now, you know, and they're coming out and they take advantage of that, destroy everything. What do you mean to destroy everything? To slow everything down, to make people get pain, you know, hurt, and try to change. But that's what everybody have to keep an eye on. That this group is very dangerous, my friend. It's worse than I say could be type of Hitler, you know, all part the killing field. That's kind of a group, and then that we don't need it. And as long as I live, I have to protect, you know, my grandchildren, my kids, you know, for future. We don't need communism. We don't need Marxism in here, or whatsoever. As long as I live, I don't need them. I don't want them. I'm very dangerous group. I'm glad that President Trump see that. Everybody see that. Should put that group away. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I understand that Logontapana, you're not too familiar with the Antifa group. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next question. But before moving on, I want to go ahead and contribute to this topic on the Antifa. The way I see the Antifa, it is a systematic. It's set up by someone. According to some of the research that I look into, it is set up by a few of the elite groups. One of the problems with the Antifa is that all of you are familiar with how the Khmer Rouge system works. They indoctrinate young kids, young adolescents, young adults. Those are the easy mind to manipulate. And if you look at all the Antifa group, they're mainly young people. A lot of young people who are naive, who doesn't understand the systems, who just, you know, pretty much go with the herd and go for the adrenaline. And let me tell you this, I've been on the other side of that young people that falls into that category. The age of 16 in my high school, I've been on the other side, okay? Let me tell you that my teacher, Oakland, California, consists of mainly 99 minorities, all minorities. My school consists pretty much 99% African American. There's only about 10 Asian throughout the entire school, okay? But everyone in the school, all my staff, all the staff, the teachers, are all white liberals. White liberals. And here it is. We're pretty much, I'm not going to say we. I was a sheep. I was a sheep because I was 16. Our teacher led a movement, a protest. We all went out downtown Oakland, California, and, we marched. But you know how young kids are, stupid as we are, 16, 17. We like the adrenaline. We like the thrills. So at the end, guess what? Some of my friends are arrested, but the teacher gets to go home, and she gets to soak her feet. She gets to enjoy her little freedom while we, the sheep, gets the punishment. But because we're minorities, because we're underage, it's easy to manipulate us. So I've been on the other side where my legislative, my mayor, and my Congress didn't do anything. When I went, around 16, 17, trying to make a difference, they didn't really listen to a young Asian minority students who try to make a difference. So that's the first time I learned about indoctrinating young folks. And that's where the Antifa come in. If you look at all the pictures, they're mainly young people, young adolescent, young adults who are easily manipulated. And that's where we, as a community, need to rise up. We need to be able to educate our community. We need to educate our young people that communism, socialism isn't the answer. Violence isn't the answer at all. And if you look at one of the clip that was recently put out, a mother and a father escort their son to the police because the son had looted and destroyed a business. And he was around 18, 19, I believe. It's all young people. And it's the same during the Khmer Rouge. They hand a gun to the young people. The same in Congo. These people who create the system understand that young people are easy to control. And that's where we need to remember. We have to be able to help our young fellow Americans not to fall into that crack, not to fall into that ideologies of, violence, because it doesn't solve anything. So our very last question is pretty much towards our president. We have some Cambodian American who ask us, what have President Donald Trump do for the minority group? What accomplishments have you done for America as a whole? Why should we, Cambodian Americans, support President Donald Trump? And the very least is that most of the people who doesn't understand President Donald Trump called him an incompetent, a Nazi, and a dictator. Do you agree to this label? So we'll start with Mr. Hoeun, sir.
So absolutely, I don't agree with that label at all. And I don't like to label people anyway, because we're all different. And, most of the people who are complaining about his difference are more than different, everybody. Let's start off with the economic relief, for one. We can also look at the opportunity zones. I don't even know how many people know about the opportunity zones, because it's up to your congressman, your governor, your mayor to provide you with this information. But they're not. They only provide them with the friends that put them in office, because they don't really care about your vote. So that's where people's vote does not count, because they can't add it or subtract it from the votes that the person is. Most places are structured with their own set of voters, and they're not doing anything to encourage the other ones. Secondly, the opportunity zones that exist right now are all across the United States. And because the governors can't get the grabs on your money, everything that you deal with comes directly straight from the federal government. That should be one thing that everybody should, when they say, what did the president do? He secured your finances. He secured that your finances come directly to you. Look at the stimulus package. Everybody got money. Everybody got money sent to them. It didn't go through your local channels like your greedy governors were sitting there waiting for the pile of money to come down so they can break theirs off, then drop off to everybody else, and then whatever's left, they'll have you come in like a herd of elephants through a small door. The first ones to get through, this is all we got. So maybe 10 outside people will get what was due for everybody, which wasn't fairly regulated. So the opportunity zones, we need to encourage people. Most of our citizens live in opportunity zones and don't know it. They're sitting on a gold mine, actually. But the people coming in trying to buy their property or try to, rent in those areas know that they're going to be having a big 10-year tax break. So all their money essentially comes back to them. So they'll probably hire some people that we know in our community to work in these buildings that they take over. But they are the only ones that's going to reap the real benefits of these. So I encourage everybody to tell everybody in their community, look for the opportunity zones. Look for the regulations that have been reduced when it comes to the economic portion of building up your economic base, your retirement funding, yours. Look how the president has taken over the Fed completely. The Fed has now taken over the IRS, which allows them to reduce rates. I mean, the news is not telling you that. But how come the rates are being maintained and lowered? They don't want to tell you that. Not during election year. You know that the president now controls your rates to help you live better. They're not going to tell you that because then, these are things that they don't want you to know. So I always tell people it's not what you're hearing from the other side. It's what you need to hear from the side that you're not hearing from. And that, I think, as Republicans, has been our, downfall. We just take it as it comes, you know what I mean? We're not putting this information in the hands of the people that really need it. And our approach in AFP is from the bottom up. We do the bottom up approach, because when you go to see a legislator, if you go by yourself, it might be a awe moment, but there might be if you go with a group of people from your community to see the same legislator, he's got a different opinion now because they go by a ratio of 150. And that ratio of 150 is based on you alone. That outside of you, you should know at least 150 people based on the people that you know that spread immediately. And some of us might know more people than that, which makes it easier for us to expand the knowledge and information that we have. But once you're able to do that and expand that information to the people who are at the bottom, I don't like to say at the bottom, but the people who are not getting the information. This is why that question was asked. If we were given the media was given the information like they're giving about all the scandals and bad things that was going on, that person would have never been able to ask that question, what has been going on? He's opened up the schools for education, private education for people. Now, some states are resistant. Here in Pennsylvania, our governor has been approved, but he's sitting on it because he's not going to pass it. He wants to regulate that because now if you live in a city where you know that your school district is the worst district that it could possibly be, and the only outlet for kids learning is a private school or charter school or a Catholic school or just the opportunity to choose the school that they want to go to that best fits their child, to best educate their child. That should be the number one priority. That's the one thing he did. Also, we're talking about the First Step Act, which you can see the separation. And I always tell people when I tell them about this, you see where your government, your local government, is separated from your federal government. Your federal government says we're going to implement a First Step Act where we can take prisoners out of prison that shouldn't be there for any long periods of time. But what is your state government doing? Your state government is jailing people on a higher basis to bring income in. because the income they get from incarceration is all the way around. But there's no recidivism that comes out with the knowledge of any more than they went in with, but the small percentage of people who decided self-determination to make something out of themselves and not come back in there again. So these are all the barriers that are presented to hold people back, that he's done just a little bit to lift those barriers so people have it a little bit. Regulations, all these regulations that hold people back from being a business. Before you can be a business, I don't know in certain states, but in Pennsylvania, before you can be a business, you have to go through all this paperwork. So by the time you go through all that, you're probably frustrated or out of money, and you can't even get your business off the ground. Now your business is doomed as a failure before it even starts. So now with these regulations and the tax reduction and all the other things that he put in with the opportunity zone, it gives you the opportunity for us to put a blueprint together for people to say, hey, this is how you invest in the stock market. This is how you do this. This is all the things that he's showing us as Business 101 that we have to pick up and give to our community. Because the other people, we see with the first stimulus package, people that know this knowledge already were the first ones in to go in and get the stimulus money, even though it wasn't for them, it was for smaller businesses. So we got to inform our communities and our people of the things that are available. They can do it the same way. They can go in, get the opportunity loans. They can get the loans of $150,000 because they're coming from private lenders. They're not attached to your local government controlling who gets it, how they get it, and what they have to do, and the kickbacks that they got to give them to get it. We all know that these are part of our society, and they happen in different cities, states, but pretty much the same way. So we have to get out there, get this information to the people as we get it. I'm in a good situation where I can get all this information. I'm dealing with legislators on a daily basis. I don't have a problem getting the information out to people. I just don't want it to be wasted. Get the information to other people so they know what their rights are. It's people that don't even know that federal prisoners were let out of jail for crimes that they were put in for Democrats in the Clinton era. And we're talking about, you know, how long Clinton's been out. We had two Bushes in there, and one Clinton after that, before they got in, and Obama, and now we're just here at the present. So count the years and look at this disdain that people have had in their heart, and the opportunity to let it out was these riots, which were still not good. But when you talk about what he's done, those are just a couple things that he's done that'll impact the person directly. Some of the other laws might take a trickle-down effect. People want to say, what about the health care? Well, the health care is being held up because of the people who don't want a better plan for people because it won't benefit their pockets. You know, if you look at the way our country is right now, tell me what illness that we have a cure for, that people can actually say, I can take this, I don't have it no more. Our pharmaceutical companies are not in the business of curing people. They're in the business of keeping people attached to their stimulus, which is coming from the government, because they get subsidized for people that we have in the Medicare, our older people. So, you know, those are just a couple of things that he does. And I want to just say one thing, if I could throw this in, so I want to read this. The whole core of this starts from somewhere else. It starts from a system that's completely broken, and people just don't want to acknowledge that it's broken and fix it, because they've been, for so many years, it's been easy to just say, no, we'll just keep going. We're not going to fix it. It's working for some people, but it hasn't been working for all Americans. This all-inclusive system that we need in place has to work for all Americans, or we'll be back in the same boat. So I'm with you, Basna. It doesn't matter whether you're Democrat, Independent, Republican, or whatever. What we have to do is research the things that make our life better, and we have to do policies that make things work for Americans. I just want to meet the criminal justice system was the reason for this, and this is our vision about the criminal justice system. criminal justice system should be an effective criminal justice system that protects people and preserves public safety, protects human dignity, restores victims, removes barriers to opportunity for people with criminal records, and ensures equal justice for all under the law. So that is what we need people to understand is the problem. The criminal justice system does not fit that description of what I just read for people. So those are some of the things that he's working on. He's working on the Second Step Act, which will help, but it's only federal. So when we try to get this information to our people, we're telling them, they're saying, oh, no, he's doing this, but they don't see their state people coming home because it's your states that are not allowing these people out. He's letting prisoners out that have records that are, you know, way above what they should be. So those are just some of the accomplishments that he has. And as soon as he does some more, you're going to see him. You're probably going to get a little more money in your paycheck from here on out as long as he's in. And you're probably going to get some extra money in another stimulus package. So those are the things that I know he's doing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hoeun. Mr. Same question. You know, what have President Trump done for America or for the minority group in general? And why should we support President Donald Trump?
Who's this for?
For you.
Oh, for me. Oh. No, that yeah, these are some really great questions, and I think the answers Mr. Hoeun gave was, I think 90% of it was my answer. But he beat me to the punch. He beat me to the punch. So I'll just hit on a little on some other things. You know, I think some of these, if you look at our criminal justice system, it's an economic machine. Sadly, it's an economic machine. Just like college is a social filter. That's what these systems are. Okay, and if you want prime examples of why our justice system, or of how our justice system is an economic machine, you just look at Jussie Smollett and you look at Harvey Weinstein. Where are they now? People who are rich, people who are well connected. There's one sitting in prison, sitting in jail for lying to the police about a race incident, and is another sitting in jail right now for raping and her sexually harassing young impressionable women who wanted to make something themselves out there in Hollywood. Where are these two people right now? They're sitting at home. They're relaxing because our justice system is broken. Okay, and it probably even goes back. I'll say we don't have the best justice system. We don't. It's not perfect. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. You know, the 3 strikes rule. I'm glad Mr. Hoeun brought up that President Trump reformed the prison system, because that 3 strikes rule I thought was racist, was pretty prejudicial and was racist, because you could be doing 3 minor things, but once you get that 3rd strike, you're seeing 20 years, Mr. Hoeun. You're seeing a long time in jail and prison. So, and you know, and I want to see President Trump dig just a little bit deeper and look into some of the immigration issues with our criminal justice system. In particular, what plagues our community right now is we have Cambodian men, okay, who did time back in the 90s, 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, who have since reformed, who have lived great lives, continue to live great lives to affect their community in a very positive way, but they're getting picked up by ICE and getting deported 15, 20 years later after they walked out of prison. They're paying twice for a debt they've already owed. So that's another reform that I want to see happen under the Trump administration. And I'm telling you right now, if to the Trump team, I know some of them are probably watching this, President Trump, if you reform immigration, that particular issue within the Cambodian community, the Asian community, I'm telling you, you're going to get a lot more support. You're going to get a lot of support for Republicans in general and for conservatism when it comes to criminal justice reform. So yes, it's broken, and yes, he's fixing it going along the way. Talking about the opportunity zone, I'll tell you right now, and I saw this in Connecticut, where our whole federal delegation are Democrats. Almost a majority of our elected officials in Connecticut are Democrats. And this is where you see ugly partisanship. And this is where you see ugly politics. Because President Trump could sign into law, a great bill, okay? And there might be certain things that add to the bill that helps a certain industry. So for a prime example is defense. President Trump, Republicans, we love spending money on defense because we know that we need a strong military, a strong defense system with what's going on in the rest of the world. Okay, it's not rainbows and unicorns out there, and we're trying to fund that at a level where we can compete and maintain dominance. So we're really strong on defense budget and defense spending. Well, guess what Connecticut has? Connecticut has a lot of defense contractors. You know, we have Raytheon, we have United Technologies, we have UB, United Boats. Submarines are built here in Connecticut. So we'll have our two U.S. senators, Senator Murphy, Senator Blumenthal, just bashing President Trump and Republicans 24 hours a day, seven days a week on social media, on Twitter, on TV. All the news talking about he's not doing anything, talking about he's not doing nothing for Connecticut. But guess what? As soon as President Trump signs that defense budget bill and puts a good amount of that money into the defense budget, a good huge chunk of that comes to Connecticut. So all the defense contractors in Connecticut and all the subcontractors, which, by the way, employs a lot of people of color, employs a lot of minorities, and impact those opportunity zones. Okay, now we're getting a 2-for-1 deal. You're getting a 2-for-1 answer for this. Okay, so you get that influx of money that goes for defense that trickles down to the manufacturing industry where a lot of Cambodians work, where a lot of Black folks work, where a lot of Latinos work, a lot of minorities. That right there is helping the Cambodian community. That right there is helping the minority community on top of what's also offered as being a part of the opportunity zone. Okay, so that's one example. Another one I also want to give is the fact that the North American Free Trade Agreement was passed in 1993-94. And then you have the Free Trade Agreement right around the same time. You know what those trade agreements did to the manufacturing industry in the 90s? And hopefully this will answer Mr. Howland's question when he said earlier he didn't know what happened with jobs in the 90s. Is it went overseas. It went overseas. A lot of jobs went to Mexico. A lot of manufacturing jobs went to Mexico. A lot more manufacturing jobs, engineering jobs went overseas. Well, guess who was employed in those industries? Cambodians, Laotians, Vietnamese, Blacks, Latinos, the working class, the middle class, the struggling working middle class were employed in that industry. And with the passage of those free trade agreements that happened under President Clinton, and that just grew and grew. And under his administration, he sponsored China into the World Trade Organization. He pretty much laid down the foundation. Okay, President Clinton and the Democrats at that time pretty much laid down the foundation. And there are some Republicans in Congress who also helped. Let's be honest about this. Laid down that foundation, paved the way for China to absorb all of these American companies, all this American manufacturing, and with that, American technology and American ideas and intellectual property. So China was able to grow because of some of these trade policies that was invoked by the Clinton administration and by a lot of these Democrat lawmakers in the 90s. So the problems we're seeing now stem from there. But guess what the president's doing? We saw the president just sign a new trade agreement. Okay, we saw there was a huge trade deficit between us and Mexico, between us and China. Well, after this new trade agreement, we're going to see that deficit shrink just a bit to a point where we know that our labor force is going to be equal to how much to our GDP. Okay, to a point where we're going to see American products being made in America again. We're going to see quality American products being made in America. We're going to see quality jobs. We're going to see better paying jobs. And we're going to see a resurgence of the manufacturing industry that is now more advanced than before, because we're going to have more kids coming out of school now, hopefully in engineering, hopefully in STEM. There was a huge push by STEM, and this is where I give President Obama a pat on the back, is that the seriousness he took with STEM technology and STEM education, and the amount of focus he did during his second term towards manufacturing. And we got to be fair about this. We got to give him some credit for that. But this president took it to a whole new level with trade agreements. He took it from here and he just threw it like a javelin into the sky, and it's going to hit that mark. And that's what it's doing to the Cambodian community, to the Asian community specifically. Number three, with my whole political human rights lobbying in D.C., we saw the issue with China going back almost 10 years. The more research I've done with U.S. foreign relations, U.S. relations with Cambodia, U.S. relations with Asia, we started to identify, our organization, the Cambodia America Alliance at the time, identified that Chinese was the real threat, the communist threat. China was a communist threat. And we pleaded the entire time for about 5-6 years when we go down to D.C. every 3-4 months on a lobbying trip. We would plead with the Obama administration to please focus on China. And that's when they had the famous pivot to Asia. I don't know, we all remember that. It was blasted all over CNN and MSNBC, was the pivot to Asia. What this pivot means. In the end, it means absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. The only thing that we got out of this was our pressure on what would have been another disastrous trade agreement, the Trans-Pacific Partnership Trade Agreement, the TPP. That would have brought us in the way of the North American Free Trade Agreement and the FTA, the Free Trade Agreement back in the 90s. This is what the TPP was. It was just another version of that, but focused mainly on developing markets in Asia, and that would have hurted the American, that would have hurted the working class, the middle class even more. That's how I felt about it. And what it also would have done was it also would have empowered and gave now these authoritarians, these dictators in Southeast Asia, in Asia, this communist country of China, it would give them more power, more credibility, more economic play, because now they have a vehicle to make money under the backs of American sweat and American innovation. So that was the issue with TPP, that the Democratic administration and the Obama administration was trying to push very hard, but we fought that. We flew out to Rancho Mirage in California in 2016 with about 2,000 people. We fought it and we won, and it didn't come into fruition. So when the question comes to what has President Donald Trump done for the Cambodian community, it might not be specific, it might not be in front of your face, but if you do the research and you look and you follow that trail and you see where the trickling came from, you will see that it comes from a president who stands strong and all the promises he made, who's keeping faith with the promises that he made to the people. And he's really, really fighting China. This is the strongest stance I've seen by any U.S. president against communist China that has hurt the Cambodian community overseas in Cambodia, that's empowering the dictators like Prime Minister Hun Sen. He's in power because China is helping him. Well, this president, Donald Trump, is fighting China. He's going toe-to-toe with China, whether you want to see it or not or believe it or not. And we're going to win. And when we win in 2020, he's going to take that fight to another level. Now, I don't want to see all-out war, but I definitely want to see American resolve. And I definitely want to see Asia free of dictators and communist influence and a lot more friendlier and cooperative and respectful towards the West.
Thank you, Visna. And since we are short in time, we're going to wrap everything up, but we're going to go ahead and give Mr. Kim K the last speech on, what have President done so far for the minority community and for America as a whole. And we'll end with Mr. Kim K. Thank you, sir.
Well, I really appreciate it. Now you put more pressure for me to give like a full speech. These two gentlemen here, Visna and Linwood, I think both of these gentlemen have stolen the thunder in terms of what President Trump has done, not just for the so-called minority community, but as a whole of America. One of the things that attract me to Donald Trump himself is he's looking at, this is not about one community. This community is not about that community, divide and conquer. He said, this is about America. Make America great again. And then that's what his whole theme is about. For the last 3 years, that's all he's been doing. For the pandemic, he said, well, let's shut down the border so that no one can be able to fly from China to here because of the infectious disease that he was admonished and make fun of for making some such irrational decisions and so forth. And having said that, going back to both of these two gentlemen have stated, is that what President Trump has done is that he's talking about America first. He's not focusing on any individual community. He wants everything to be in America. With the new U.S.-Mexico trade agreement that he signed in, every economist, so-called economist, and said this is a bad thing. But when I had the opportunity to read into that trade deal, when he got rid of CAFTA, NAFTA, and all of that, is that it brings the job back to these three countries. It is mandated that all products, doesn't matter where it is from, whether it is company owned by Japanese, Japanese, Korea, China, or anyone that is outside the U.S., it is required, it is mandated that up to 71% of the part, even as a car, even as a laundry machine, as a television, has to be manufactured in one of these countries. And that you see the explosions of the manufacturers coming back into America. You see a lot of steel workers, companies has been closed nearly 10 years. They reopened back up because of these jobs are coming back. So to the individual that asked the question, what has President Trump done for the Asian community or any other community specifically? He's not doing it for one specific community. Remember the famous thing that JFK once said, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. As an educated individual at all level of knowledge, at the research information that we have at hand now, go out there and look for it. Don't wait for somebody to come and knock your door and say, hey, I need your help. No, reach out to everyone. I don't care whether you're going with the Republican, the Democrat, the Green Party, for whatever the political party that you will align yourself to, reach out to them. Be active. This is your community. You are vested in it as much as I am vested in the Republican Party as well. So go out there, do yourself a favor, do it for your community, not for anyone else, for your community. If you don't like President Trump, great. That's your opinion. That's your idea. But for me, I like the way he put it out there. America first. We are living in the land of the free, the economic prosperity. We need to move forward together as a community, not as an individual.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kim K. Before we end our show, for all of our viewers who has questions or concern, please drop those questions and comment below. We'll have our team answer the next time we meet and do the next live show. Thank you so much for everyone. God bless and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thanks for